So here we are, the end of a fairly long journey.
Wow.
We are reading Steven Erikson's Gardens of the Moon, the first book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. 10 very big books. This is tonight or today, or wherever you happen to be, we are going through the last 4 chapters. And as usual, if you want to, feel free to drop a comment. Tell us where we're right or wrong, whether our conclusions on the books are right or wrong, or whether we've just got the facts wrong. And normally what we do is we normally go through this on the basis of the individual aspects and things that happen on a chronological level. But seeing as these last 4 chapters are kind of all to do with the same event, it's probably not the best way to do it. We could probably deal with it in another way by just looking at the whole set of events of the last 4 chapters. Because essentially, I mean, when they start, we have a big, huge, jagged tyrant making its way towards the city of Darujistan, set in motion by Lorne, acting for the Empress. We have the bridge burners who are hanging around ostensibly to blow up every intersection in the city. We have the usual crew of the Phoenix Inn, who are all going essentially to one big party. Lady Simtal's having her party. The party happens to be taking place on the famous Fete of Gederon, which is this festival day. And of course, to add to the drama, it's going to be a masked ball. So this is, the convergence of everything. And I thought maybe a better way to deal with it, rather than dealing with it chronologically, would be to deal with it on a series of what the hell is happening with X. And X could be a different thing. But I thought maybe to start it off, we could say, what the hell is happening with Marilia, Cole, Ralik Nom, and the plot against Lady Simtal? Anyone have any ideas?
Well, is it not as simple as the fact that they just were trying to get her back for messing with their buddy? I mean, is it not as simple as that? Because she kicked him out, right? So she and I mean, it wasn't clear to me whether she disgraced him more
than just kicked him out.
Yeah, and then I guess she kind of agreed to get him killed, but sort of not. Like, it wasn't clear whether she really wanted to or not. So maybe, I mean, I guess that they must have known all of this and were trying to get it back, right? I mean, is it not as simple as that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, but they seem to. I couldn't quite understand. There seemed to be they somehow were going to restore him, and it seemed to be almost accepted that they had, but I didn't understand to what extent they had or hadn't. And then Marilia seemed to have a whole lot of self-doubt about whether they'd done the right thing or not. But anyway, I think it's what it is. We're going to reinstate his honor, basically, by disgracing her. I can't really follow that, to be honest. But
yeah, and I guess there's some events that we've obviously missed, right? Like and the details of how she's disgraced him are not revealed.
Never.
So I guess we wouldn't be able to weigh up the one for the other. But by the end, I guess they have restored him in some way. Certainly from getting him back his estate. That's one thing. And then I guess Murillo now has something on her, which it seemed like they had secured. But again, they hadn't really told us about.
Yeah, and I mean, keeping on the theme of what the hell is happening with, I mean, the obvious one is the tyrant race. I mean, it's quite a nice timer the way he gets closer and closer to the city, and various people attempt to stop him. And yeah, the most surprising of which was probably Krupp. To my mind, I loved that scene. I just absolutely adored it because I mean, this race is so powerful. It basically destroys 5 dragons. And then there's this little man in a waistcoat standing in front of him. But he's somewhere in one of Krupp's dream worlds, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it just
I thought Krupp was cool.
Yeah.
In this last couple, he was very, very funny.
Yeah, and you're getting like bigger tastes of sort of the power he possesses, right? I mean, this is huge. What he's able to do while he's asleep. It's mad. So I mean,
yeah, he's kind of dozing at the party at the time,
just casually saving the world,
But he doesn't seem to. He seems to fail.
Yeah, well, trying.
But he's only sleeping because he's eaten half the canapes that he's came across. It's like, oh, yum, 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 yum.
I love the fact that he chooses as his mask for the party a cherub with like jam stains on his face.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed him in that.
Rosy cheeks.
Yeah, but I mean, as I understood it, the god Krull arrives as well in that dream world, and he can't even stop Raced, because Raced basically shifts into another body, and it takes a chapter or so to work out whose body that is. But that seems to be his escape route. And his appearance getting nearer and nearer, and all the wizards are bleeding from the ears, basically, the nearer he gets. I thought that was quite a nice touch as well. They can all sort of sense this overwhelming power, complaining about headaches, etc.
Can we just take it back to the top of the chapter? Because it starts with Lorne burying an acorn. And I've forgotten how that comes into play, because I read these last 4 chapters today. And it's been a while since I read the other ones. So what was the deal with the acorn? So
when Lorne and Toole got into the tomb or the barrow to wake up the Jagged, Toole tells her to look for something which will be precious to him. And once you find it, you take it with you, and he'll stop at nothing to get you or to get it back. And she sees the acorn.
Okay.
And she had to guess what it was, right? Like,
yes,
from a various,
exactly.
and that almost
The
felt a little bit, the finished. So that almost felt a little bit like, sort of reminded me a little bit of Gollum in the darkness with his few precious items and that kind of thing. But it also gave me a little bit of that, like, Harry Potter and the Horcruxes kind of thing. Because that's what this was, the power, the thing that he was now trying to go and find, and get it away from Lorne. And that was his homing beacon. So he was heading straight for Lorne because of that finished.
And that's very much part of appears to be the Imperial plan, to wake up this tyrant, send it into the city, and have him basically destroy the city or Anomander Rake. Because the idea is that Rake will obviously try and oppose it.
Come down and defend the city,
which Rake doesn't really seem to do. Because, speaking about Lorne, I mean, Lorne, we see her burying this acorn in the garden. And then what grows from that acorn takes up the next few chapters. And it's this house, Azath house, Azath. That grows particularly quickly and is ultimately the thing that imprisons Raced. And most people's reaction to this book is, what the hell was wrong with that house? What is an Azath? Why is it there? People find the ending very bizarre with reference to the Azath in particular. Did you guys?
It took a little while to figure out what it was, right? Am I correct in imagining it almost as if, I don't know, if like in Evil Dead, those sort of the roots coming out of the woods and grabbing it, and
like an organic house, like growing out of the ground, and then
and this happens almost like over the span of like a couple of minutes.
Yeah, people describe this thing getting bigger the whole time.
Wow.
And weirdly enough, I didn't think it was out of place or anything. It just felt like, oh, okay, cool, this house is growing, and I mean, I guess to some extent that Raced must have known that it could take him out, right? And that's why he was trying to get it, and that's why he was in a hurry to get to it, I guess. But now, did someone do something to it? I mean, I don't know if I missed that part, but like, was it always going to just start growing, or why hadn't it been growing before? Was something,
Yeah.
did something activate it?
I don't know if it was the fact that it was activated because of where it was, or probably the Azath come up in several of the books, and it's never fully explained. But it seems to me it's almost like the universe's immune system reacting to too much power. It almost acts like a sort of like a force of neutrality to neutralize extreme amounts of power that could effectively alter the world. That's how I see it. So the Azath is like this deeper form of magic, but it's a kind of neutrality magic. You know, a damper on extreme use of power, essentially. That's my take on it. I don't know if that's canon, but that seems to be it. But it was interesting. Like, you know, I mean, looking back on the novel. And reading it with you guys and having a, you know, sort of combined reading experience for the first time has kind of changed my view on the book and in quite a lot of ways. One of them is it's realizing the extent to which it's not a complete story like some of the other books are, in a sense that it feels very much like a scene set. You know, here's this world for you to get used to. Is this world in which humans are continuously being messed with by the gods and need to find a way to sort of fight back and deal with it. And here all these characters and these cool things and magical abilities and I mean, in a way, thinking about it, the planting of the seed is kind of symbolic of what the book is, you know. You know, it's like here's the book in which the culmination is a seed gets planted, you know. And it just struck me as kind of like symbolic. I don't know if it's meant to be, but it just felt that way.
No, that's cool though. I like that idea that the whole book is a seed in itself. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it feels
the title makes more sense now,
and it builds a house that you can't escape from.
And the one thing about Steven Erikson is the title of the books are always significant, and it's called Gardens of the Moon. I mean, and I've never thought about that. Like, what it's not even the only Gardens of the Moon mentioned is brief 2-liner by Absalard to Crocus, talking about some legend about gardens growing on the moon. But that's it. You know, other than that, gardens are not mentioned. The moon is only moon spawn, and maybe that's it. Maybe, but who knows? Just seems odd.
I mean, virtually all of the last 4 chapters take place in a garden.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, maybe that's got something to do with it.
Underneath Moonspawn, which seems to be getting lower and lower as the chapters progress. So, along the theme of what the hell's going on with Anomander Rake?
My man,
Mr. Inconspicuous.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite part when he goes to the fate with the dragon mask. And he's like 7.5 feet tall.
Yeah, but it's the hair that gives him away.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
Exactly. The funniest part is he goes with Baruch, and Baruch introduces him to that slime bag Turban Ore, and he still doesn't get it. You know, he's like, "Oh, where do I know you from?" You know, kind of.
Turban Ore. What a bell end.
What a knob.
I mean, the duel between Turban Ore and Ralik Nom is one of my favorites as well, because it's such a non-event.
Hysterical.
Yeah, I know. It was it was funny. It's the second that it happened that he gets the hump with him and he wants to fight him. I just thought, this is great, because you didn't know how this is going to end badly.
Yeah, bring a duelist to an assassin's fight.
Yeah, it is funny. Yeah, and then the second, I think he realizes pretty quickly what's going down when he sees the second join. Who's like, as you say, 7.5 foot tall with, you know, bone.
I'll be your second.
It's like, kill him if you want to, bro. Our house got nothing to do with Artful.
You know, I
Whatever.
like the fact that Turban Orr just gets offed unceremoniously.
Mm,
So good.
it was good because he
Was
doesn't even
that-
have any blades in his hands when he attacks him.
No, he doesn't. Yeah, it's like, and the guys are afterwards. Well, that wasn't really a duel. No, I like that.
That was so funny.
And
but I've always liked Relic, though. I think I'm glad
Yeah.
Relic had a nice, like a really cool part there to play.
no nonsense kind of guy. You know?
Yeah, that was great.
But also, I mean, one of the interesting parts about this is I don't know many authors who would introduce a new character 4 chapters before the end, and we suddenly meet the poison, the White Paralled herself, Vorkan, who is the head of the Assassin's Guild.
Yeah.
And all these weird epigraphs at the beginning of chapters talking about the white poison and the spider yet to be revealed, and it's all about her. I mean, she arrives, she accepts the contract from the Empire, says, "Oh shit, I've got to take out this cabal now," and starts basically eliminating them one by one in the last 4 chapters of the book. Probably not classic storytelling by any means.
No, but it was wasn't she always hinted at though?
Yeah, she was quite a lot, very surreptitiously in some ways.
Yeah.
But she obviously doesn't accept the contract until this point.
Well, I was under the impression that they hadn't been able to track her down to give her the contract.
Yeah, they tried to, and then they got ambushed by the Tistandi at one point.
Yeah, because I mean, I know from earlier on, there's always been, who is the eel, who's the circle breaker, things like that. Who's the guild master or mistress of the assassins? And I know that was always Whiskey Jack's mission, or the bridge burner's missions, was to track her down and give her the offer. And it just felt like, and that, well, didn't feel like it, but obviously it did happen in the last 2 or 3 chapters, when the garden was like the busiest place on Malazan. Everyone and his dog was in there running around, making deals.
Yeah, and I mean, Alistair, it must have been sad for you to have that poignant moment at the end with your favorite character, Circle Breaker.
I didn't quite get what happened to him.
I didn't either. I mean, he seemed to just get released from his contract.
But
his win seemed to be you made it out alive and you're okay.
Because I was reading the letter that he got, and I thought, oh, this is a trap. Yeah, it didn't for like a second. I thought he's going to read the letter. He's going to think, yeah, I made it out of all of this chaos. He's going to walk down to the pier, and then he's going to get offed.
Yeah, it did feel like that. It felt like he was. It was too good to be true, right?
Yeah.
And
but the letter was from Krupp, wasn't it? Krupp sent him
exactly.
Well,
it was a letter from the eel.
It
was from the eel, right?
Oh, I
and
see.
So at that point, he still doesn't know that he's talking to the eel face to face.
Yeah.
No, but also I thought maybe, I mean, it could be someone else. It could be that maybe Krupp is not setting him up. Maybe it's someone else catches him in the crossfire, because at some point someone else recognized him as well, right?
It was Turban Orr who realizes he's the spy that's been
the security guard.
Orr's actually walking towards him to confront him when Braddock shoulders him and says, "Hey, you bumped into me."
Yeah, but now, was that planned? Because to me, it came off as planned.
I think Rallick was just looking for an opportunity to provoke a fight with him. I mean, that was all part of their reinstate Cole plan, But it was good. I mean, it was good.
Yeah, because then as soon as the circle breaker leaves, he smiles, and then I thought, and I had to read that passage a few times to make sure that there wasn't anything hidden, and like he's been stabbed, and this was his last smile, but it seems to be, goodbye for now.
And I mean, under the topic of what the hell is going on with Lorne, we have to, I think, stop and point out that only one person, when it came to predicting who was going to live and who was going to die, managed to get the most number of correct answers, and that was Gareth Graham, who in particular predicted Lorne would die, and she does, pretty unceremoniously at the end.
Yeah, you feel very sorry for her towards the end of the book, I find. I think as she reflects on her life, and I
Yeah,
think
it's
she
quite
feels quite
sad.
tragic about it, that she's basically lost every connection she ever had to the person that she was before she became adjunct.
Mm.
So you do I felt a little bit sort of sympathetic towards her, She got all reflective towards the end.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. It was the sort of the last few chapters of the book is basically she's lost all her individuality, and she's just a weapon,
A
just an
tool of
adjunct.
the empire, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the going back to when we started with this, right? We were talking about how some of the writing is a bit jarring and isn't written as usual or as expected. I mean, for something like that, for me, for her to have this massive, almost what feels like a turnaround and this massive change in mind and all of that, like that sort of stuff comes gradually, surely, right? And gradually over time. And it just felt like it came out of nowhere. Like in the last couple of chapters, all of a sudden now she's being all introspective, when the whole book she was moving towards one singular outcome. And it just felt a bit off to me. It felt like, where's this kind of coming from? I agree. I also felt a bit sorry for her. But it just felt a bit odd the way that was told.
It's interesting because I wonder how much of it is symptomatic of it being based on games that guys played as like RPGs, right? Because I know I've mentioned it to you before, Rob, but it does feel a little bit, like it's just a bunch of scenes that happen, at some point one after another. There's no real like overriding arc, and you spend way long on strange things and then zip through other things. But that's kind of what it's like in an RPG. You can spend like all night figuring out how to get down a flight of stairs, but then like hand wave and fast forward through a lot of the other stuff. So
yeah, like the whole challenge thing when he challenges into a duel, that was like Jackie Brown, because it's like you got to see it from 12 different people's points of view. It's like, okay, I get it off the first page. I know there's going to be a fight. I don't need to hear how the next 10 how the next 10 people feel about it, but it just I don't know.
Getting back to the Lawn thing, I found that she's kind of vacillated between her two positions over the book. I think we've had chapters where she's very, oh God, I'm losing my humanity, and other chapters where she's very much just the tool of the Empress.
But I think it's also because we don't really see from her perspective, I think, until later. A lot of it is we saw Perrin when he first met her, and she was like, he felt maybe abrasive or whatever. I think a lot of it was other people's points of view of her, and we drew that impression when she's putting on the adjunct facade, and then maybe only later in the book we started to see from her point of view.
The first time I read the book, that scene of her death stuck in my head, probably most out of any of the scenes of the book. So when I read it now, I was expecting to get to that scene and to feel like a sort of emotional connection, and I didn't. I reread it because I kept thinking, is this the same scene that I read the first time? Because it just didn't have the impact that it had the first time, and maybe I just didn't connect with Lorne on this read. I don't know, but I felt quite a lot of sympathy for her the first time around, and far less now. Maybe it's
honest,
what
man,
you're saying.
think
She wasn't developed enough to be able to hook into it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. She didn't stand out enough against all the other characters.
What the hell is going on with Whiskey Jack?
The bouncer.
Yeah, so with bouncers at the party. The plan that was going to blow up all the intersections is suddenly, for some reason, definitely not on. And we need to go and find the guys who've got the bombs and tell them to stop, because we now realize we're going to destroy the whole city if we do this.
It felt a little bit slapstick, right? That sudden, oh shit, man.
Gas mains.
It's like how long have they been setting these bombs for that they didn't?
Yeah, and then also like
days.
I know.
And then the first of the last ones, guy's walking and he sees the grey faces, whatever.
Yeah.
And then he's like, ooh, grey faces. Something to do with the grey faces. I can't quite remember what it was. And he walks on. And reading that line, okay, that's not even subtle foreshadowing. It's like a hammer on the head. Gas, bombs, wasn't very subtle.
I think the issue is not so much that this is going to happen. It's that this is what the Empress has intended to happen the whole way.
Mm.
And that's
But she
more the
did-
realization, like, oh shit, we were primed to actually blow up this whole city.
With
No,
us
but-
in it.
So the
Yeah.
the Empress wants to blow it up, right? With the gas and the bombs. She wants to unleash this terror from. I mean, how it's almost like Calvin and Hobbes when he becomes Spaceman Spiff, and he plays with his dinosaur and his nuclear bomb,
Yeah.
and he's got like the tanks and all like descending on his one little town to blow it up. That's what I felt like to me. I thought, how many ways you want to take this place out?
Mm.
Yeah, it was a lot.
So do you blow it up as the tyrant's there, or do you let the tyrant do it and then blow it up? Then why are you spending all that money to kill the assassins if you're going to do all of this anyway?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it didn't work for me either. Like
No.
I go back to what I said a few episodes back, right? Like it just seemed the whole thing seemed pointless to me. It's like, why would you have this convoluted plan to go and now take out the nobility or the politicians or whoever, and then you're trying to do all these other things, and as you say, like if your whole plan was to blow the thing up with your most elite unit, what was the point?
Yeah.
And then,
Well, I know you want to
why?
take your almost the unit you'd like to get rid of too, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. So you're trying to get rid of the unit and you want to blow the whole thing up. Plus, you've got this like all these backup plans, and none of the backup plans come through. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And also, like, why does she want to eradicate it off the map so badly? And like, didn't bring any of that focus.
I'm afraid you need book 6 for that answer.
Oh, okay, book 6. Sorry, but then you think like, why were the machinations not as quick and as sudden against Pale? Because Pale feels it was like a siege that lasted for how many years?
Yeah.
And
3
it just
years.
felt so. Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to sit here for 3 years, and I'm going to do very little. I'm just going to throw legions of Marines. But now, in the space of 2 weeks, I've got all of these super cunning, intricate plans to take out this Darujistan.
Yeah. And if you
Like,
want, that's a great point. Because if you
consistent.
wanted to blow up Darujistan, if you really wanted to blow it up, you could have sent the bridge burners, that small group of bridge burners, weeks ago, before Pale was even taken out. You could have sent them down there.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have
And
got
just blow it
Animander Rake that way. You have to draw him into the fray.
Yeah, but
Well,
to
she
what
should have
end?
taken him out in Pale, right? When she
Yeah,
had the
exactly.
time.
He was in Pale, standing on the balcony, fighting all Tation. I don't
But
know.
also, what the bombs had nothing to do with Rake, though.
No. They were just to destroy the city.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, so if that was the plan, and he was never going to be able to stop that, like he was not, on the same page as that.
no, probably.
And then they offer what's her name? The spider woman, that we meet at the end.
Vulcan?
Vulcan. They offer her the city. Oh, you can have the whole city.
Yeah.
Knowing full well there's not going to be a city left.
No, absolutely.
So now you've just upset all of their Assassins Guild. And even if they survive, they're going to mark you for death. I don't know. Got a bit silly.
As I say, plans within plans.
Yeah.
You need Toll the Hounds, book 7. Will answer all your questions.
But that's the thing. You say that, right? So I can tell you now that I've read these 4 chapters today.
Yes.
And the couple of chapters that I read before, I read them maybe 3 weeks ago. And for the life of me, I cannot remember those 3 chapters that I read a couple of weeks ago. So if I had to read book 7,
exactly,
6, there is no way I'm going to remember what happened in book 1.
I read these two weeks ago, and I'm just smiling and nodding here, like, yeah, cool.
yeah.
I remember all of the. No, yeah, but you're right, Al. It's so much happens in a chapter, and especially with no like real main character to hang on to sort of anchor your sort of remembering of the story.
Yeah.
I think it becomes very difficult because it's just here's a collection of scenes, not from any particular point of view in any sort of pattern. It's just very sort of all over the show. So that's maybe why it's so hard to
remember.
And what about Perrin?
Perrin.
So Perrin gets pulled into this other dimension where this thing called the Finist exists, which seems to be the kind of spirit form of rest. Which is being battled by none other than my favorite character in the whole book, Unos Tulan or Tool, who's in this continuous fight with this thing, and Perrin using his famous luck sword is able to buy him enough time to keep this thing occupied long enough for the house to grow and eventually absorb it. So he's kind of, I suppose, heroic in that way. And then at the end of that, he has a run-in with Cotillion, who, a little bit late, if you ask me, says to him, you should try to be avoided by the gods.
I didn't listen when Whiskey Jack told me that, and I'm not going to listen to you.
He's been shot, stabbed, abandoned,
died once,
lost his friends, fell in love. That didn't end well.
No, absolutely.
That oak's been through the ringer. Out of all the characters, he's been through the ringer. Met gods, stood at Hood's feet.
Well, I mean, they did set us up in the prologue for him to be the hero, right? And I really thought he was always going to be the hero of the story, and so it wasn't too surprising to me that he did have a role to play in the end. And I'm kind of glad that he did, because it would have been very weird to have him be that main focus right at the start and then do nothing for the whole book.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of lives up to the promise, I suppose, but he also then has an interaction with Opon. Tells them, "Oh, well, I gave the sword away," and they say, "Oh, well, to who?" He's like, "Oh, no, the Lord of Shadows, best mate, Master of Assassins." They're like, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that." It's like, well, what harm can come with that? But,
well, at least he's grown some balls over the course of the book.
No,
that is true. He has.
He has. He's not just defiant of authority. He's come, but largely just defiant of all the gods.
Yeah.
And that's obviously a big theme in the books. But
he's also realized. Sorry, carry on.
No, go for it, Al.
I was just saying, I think he's realized his mortality after having died several times over the course of a couple of chapters. I think he's realized it's like, well, not much I can actually do here. I might as well just play it as risky as all hell.
It seems like that becomes the mindset of a lot of them, though, right? It's just like this resignation to
death.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But he also, some of the people that he cared for, he kind of lost as well, right? So I mean, there was a little bit of that coming through, and then I like that sort of touching bit with him and Lorne, and he was sort of one of the only people that was even kind of thinking of her, and he had this weird sort of relationship with her, right? Which was, in one way he was doing his duty, and the other way that he felt betrayed, and then there was so it was kind of complicated and interesting. But to lose her, to lose
but he would have killed her if the others hadn't anyway.
I mean, totally.
That was his plan. And then he's carrying her body around at the end. You're right. I mean, it is a very complex thing. Although I liked the fact that he reconciles it with becoming a soldier, his journey. That's what I liked about it, harking back to the prologue where Whiskey says to Whiskey Jack, "Well, I want to become a soldier," and then Whiskey Jack says, "You'll grow out of it." And at the end he takes command of the bridge burners over Whiskey Jack, or replacing Whiskey Jack. And he reconciles his journey with, he finally feels like a soldier, which I thought was quite a cool.
I did like that, because I think in the beginning he felt that he hadn't earned his captaincy, his control, and obviously he realized that these guys were so veteran, and I think he obviously felt maybe slightly inadequate, but towards the end he's earned it, and I think he knows that he's earned it as well, and they know that he's earned it. So everyone seems to be in accord that him taking over is the best thing.
And I like that sort of ending for him. And they have another call with Dujek on the bone phone, who gives you the context of what's happening in the rest of the world. He's exiled. Whiskey Jack's now he's 2IC. Parrot is command of the bridge burners. They're going to go fight somebody else. Oh, and the Seven Cities is going to be in open rebellion in a week's time. Otherwise, cheers.
And something to do with.
And you're promoted.
There was something to do with Pale as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, they looks like they're going to lose Pale as well.
Yeah, so Pale's falling.
Yeah.
The Seven Cities is in open rebellion.
And there's a
Yeah.
new war on this continent which needs to be fought.
Yeah, and all of this after we've read 600 pages of complete command and conquer, and then in the last chapter it all goes to shit.
It's all gone to shit.
Like,
Anyway.
what?
Yeah. And yeah, so that's it. That's what's going on with Dujek. He's been exiled, or what do you call it? Is not exiled? Yeah, I mean, he's been basically kicked out of the army.
Hmm.
And then this I've avoided speaking about Crocus.
Everyone's
happy to carry
favorite
on.
horny teenager.
Yeah, I mean, like we've been moaning about Crocus the whole way through this book. His plan to make up with the woman who doesn't even actually like him is to stalk her in the bushes and then basically attack her.
Yeah, that worked out well.
I mean, and she
Yeah.
basically tells him that when she manages to fight him off, that she actually likes someone else, and he's crushed. Like,
I don't know
I
what he
can't take that
expected.
guy seriously.
I really don't know
Poor
what he
Epsilon. I was like,
expected.
what am I, chopped liver?
Yeah, I mean, jeez, I mean, but Crocus does actually do something heroic in the end. Probably get to that. But speaking of Absalom, sorry, there's quite a sad moment when Whiskey Jack asks Mallet, the healer, to go and see what he can do for her, and Mallet basically just takes a look inside her cup and says, "Oh, this is not good," She deserves your sympathy. I can sort of erase her memory, but that wouldn't really be fair. And so he recommends they just leave her as is.
But I never
she's
quite
clearly
understood.
quite broken.
I never understood why who was controlling her again?
Cotillion.
Cotillion. How did Cotillion lose control of her?
He gave it up because Rake demanded that they told Shadow Throne,
Okay, that was it.
you tell your mate to leave her alone, basically.
And then is the seer the one who's sort of like keeping those two parts of her memory separate, right?
I think she's what's keeping her together, basically.
Yeah.
That memory that she's basically possessed her shortly before Cotillion did.
Yeah.
And yeah, so sorry it is a bit sorry, the whole thing by the end of it. And Crocus, sorry, that relationship doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Crocus's Chalice or whatever her name is doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And his uncle, it turns out, is just the vessel for rest to take over in the middle of the party, which I thought was quite a cool scene because we just meet this witch, Deridan, I think her name is Deridan, I don't know how you pronounce it. She's one of Baruch's cabal. And next thing, suddenly, Rest manifests as of course, but Mammoth, who's the uncle, he actually went to the fete with a Juggernaut mask on.
That's correct. Yeah.
Should have been a giveaway, I suppose. And he then starts terrorizing the place, and we see this witch together with Quickben unleashed for the first time, and they basically just there's a grenade involved as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And all of this together,
Incendiary.
all of that together, just is including Quickben's all 7 of his warrens, is enough to just slow this thing down enough so that the house can kind of take hold and the roots pull it in. It does make you think, like, what outcomes were they really thinking were going to happen by unleashing this thing?
No idea.
You just happen to have 4 or 5 of the most powerful wizards in the world, and they just able to claim it with the help of some giant magical house. But anyway, yeah, Quickben, let's go. And then for me, I mean, after the party breaks up and there's chaos in the streets, and before she dies, Lorne, what she refers it as Tashrin's last trick. Throws a little demon Pokemon down, and it's flipping demon lord of some kind. which starts going through the city, and we see Rake finally take on. Obviously, been saving himself for this moment. He finally veers into a black dragon, and the two of them start fighting. But I love the descriptions of the demon lord. I thought it was pretty cool, sort of walking through the city. But it's interesting that it's Taishran's last plan.
Yeah, because Taishran hasn't really. I mean, he hasn't really taken much of a role in through the middle of the book. He was there at the start. Everyone knows that he's the enemy, but nobody, we don't get his point of view. We don't get much happening with him at all. So I'm assuming that he plays a role in the rest of the books, because I mean, he's obviously quite a big part of this whole plot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and even his demon isn't enough to destroy Rake at the end. And there's an interesting moment, because they almost get quite civil with each other during the duel, where the demon says to Rake, you're more blood of Tiamat than you are Sister Andy, which I thought was quite interesting. You're more dragon than Andy, and he almost says it like an insult. Anyway, he gets absolutely. It's a high-level boss fight, really.
Yeah.
It's
also great to see Rake go into that, transform into that dragon, though. I mean, that was just
it's pretty
so
cool.
epic. Yeah,
and we find out that he's soul taken, as they call it.
Yeah.
And if you're going to have a soul taken form, I think giant legendary black dragon is probably the one you want.
Not a little marionette.
Yeah,
Then.
don't be a ferret.
Yeah. Not a hair shirt.
I'm a real dragon.
I'm a real dragon. And I mean, there's this. Then you get that scene with Baruch in the house where Crocus is trying to get to him. Can't get in because of Baruch's got all these magical wards up, but then they all get destroyed when Rake and this demon fight. Crocus comes in. They're all waiting. All the Cabal are holding up there as their members are getting wiped out by Vorkin. She arrives. She's unable to. She tries to assassinate them, but then Serat, one of the Sister Andy, comes in, dies in the process, and as Vorkin is wounded, she gets hit by a brick thrown by Crocus. It's like the way for an assassin leader to go out, half a brick to the head.
Yeah, I know.
That does feel very D&D, I must say.
And very Crocus, right?
Yeah, I know.
The weapon of choice.
Yeah.
Half a brick.
Crocus saves Baruch by loying her with a brick.
Yeah, because he jumps through the doorway and he's standing there with these two, and he doesn't describe them as bricks. He just describes them as something else.
Yeah.
And then
a rock or something.
Yeah, like two inanimate objects or something like, I don't know. And then he just throws a brick at it. What? Come on, dude. You're not even trying at this stage.
He throws a brick. Doesn't kill her, because she ultimately, we know, she survives it. But with all this going on, it might be difficult. It might be easy to miss the fact that last chapter, chapter 24, begins with an epigraph about the Azath, like the house. But did you notice who the author of that epigraph was?
No.
Somebody called Adaphon. Yeah.
Enlighten us, a wise one.
Isn't that Quick Ben?
That's Quick Ben. That's his name. Yeah.
Oh shit! I might get that on my
Hold on,
my
you just
eighth
rewind.
read.
Rewind a second. Didn't someone get stabbed with a twig or a wooden dagger? Or am I misremembering it?
You may have dreamt that. I don't know. It could be.
We're in Crupper's dream again.
Did someone get stabbed with a wooden dagger?
Something to do with like I'm going to find it. Someone did. I'm almost positive. And they were talking about something to do with spiders. Some sort of a
okay,
poison. Some sort of a poison.
We need to find some.
There were.
Don't be mean.
There are basically these chapters. The first epigraph is about dragons. The second one is about ravens. I don't know what the third one about. It's probably about spiders. So there's a theme there. No, it's not. Sorry, it's just a poem about blades, stealing magic, etc. And then the last one is this one about the Azath, written by Adafon. And then some of the bridge burners. Oh, I forgot. Crocus. What did you guys make of Crocus's secret protectors?
I've forgotten. Who were the protectors?
So there are these
The
guys,
Crimson Guard.
Crimson Guard,
Oh,
who've been secretly looking after him and do so again in this last chapter. Basically tell him, yeah, we'll be looking after you.
Yeah, all the invisible dudes. They
yeah.
just all of a sudden, hey, here we are.
Yeah, we thought you were just lucky. And then some of the bridge burners decide.
At least I enjoyed that though. I liked that as rather than him just being lucky the whole time, right? Like I think it was quite a nice payoff to go, okay, so he's, it's not just Opon the whole time. It actually there were some real people.
Blah, blah. Yeah, no, it was. And yeah, you haven't, it's not actually been luck, it's been us. It's kind of which I quite enjoyed. Some of the bridge burners decide that they need to take Sorry back home.
sorry, page 688.
He's found the bit about the stick. 688.
688. Towards the bottom.
Read it.
That's a spider, isn't it?
That's the poison, yeah.
Yeah, but then he's talking about some, what was it?
There's some kind of knife in there.
The knife is covered in sap.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's white parrot poison.
Yeah. Spider poison.
Yeah, and that's what there's about 4 epigraphs and chapters about the hidden spider with her envenomed blade. Blah blah blah. But yeah, I think it's just that spider venom on the blade.
Yeah, I thought it was actual. So I thought it was to do with the willow tree of sadness, madness, and badness growing in the garden. I thought maybe someone had broken a branch off of that. And I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what I was thinking. I apologize.
That's all right. You were
a great flipping weapon idea, actually.
Well, exactly. But anyway,
it would be. And then Vorkin gets carried into the Azath house by Ralik. And disappears inside. And that's the same house that's imprisoned the tyrant Raced. But
yeah, I was lost there because Ralik seemed to be having some weird thoughts as well at the same time. So
intrusive thoughts.
Yeah, so something felt like it was taking over his consciousness. And then he runs into this house and the house lets him in, which the observers were like, well, we couldn't get in. How come you're getting in?
Yeah.
So there's some relationship now between Ralik and the house. Plus, I don't understand why he's taking her in. Because she was kind of his boss, right? At some point.
She is it. Yeah, she's currently his boss.
He's his direct line manager tried to kill him.
That is true.
I bet that happens if you're doing corporate.
But she did say the guy was acting without authority.
Right.
He hadn't filled in the necessary forms, and therefore,
he hadn't logged it on the system.
That's a serious non-compete form, bro.
He's also got to go.
Yeah.
But what I was looking for is the section where he goes into the house, and then the Tistiandi who are chasing her or trying to get revenge, they stop and they say, "Well, we're not going in." And then they talk about, but they can't understand why the house opened for him.
Yeah.
And they say there is precedent for that. The Azath choose their own. It was so with the dead house. Two men chosen, one who would be emperor, the other who would accompany him. That's his Kellenved, who was the emperor, and Dancer is 2IC. That refers to those two gentlemen entering into one of these Azath houses in a different place. In fact, it's the subject of an entire book by Ian Esselmont. But have you guys put together who the significance of the emperor and his right-hand man?
I'm just trying
Come
to
on, dude, kids.
figure out.
So the old emperor that Lassine replaced, right? He was called Kellenved.
Yeah.
And he had a mate called Dancer.
And a
No.
cousin, Prancer.
Yeah. Now they were best
Rudolph
friends.
was his cousin.
Rudolph was his cousin.
And now we have two new deities on the scene: Shadow Throne and Cotillion.
Whoa, man, that's wild.
So to answer your question, you've got to wait and see what the house does with Ralik Nom.
Damn.
Oh, wait. So, but just repeat that. So, are you saying? So you're saying Shadow Throne and Cotillion?
Shadow Throne is the emperor.
Yes.
The old emperor.
The old emperor who was betrayed by the head of the claw, who then elevated herself to empress.
And were we supposed to get that?
How the hell did you get
from
that?
this book?
You got to get it, guys. Come on, it's so obvious. I don't know how you didn't get it. Really, I mean,
Sure.
have you not been following along in your readers?
Picked it up in my first third read.
Yeah.
He
Anyway,
hits us over the head with a million other things, like the freaking spinning coin, and then he
Yes.
expects us to pick this up from out of nowhere.
So I'm actually going to write this down now, so I can just make sure tomorrow morning
Write
I'm not
it in
dreaming.
the back of your book. Yeah.
Yeah. So the old emperor, and his name was
Kellenved.
okay, and he was assassinated, if I recall,
By Lassine.
By Lassine.
by Lassine.
Well, that was the rumor.
Yeah.
The rumor was he'd been assassinated by Lassine.
But so they weren't wed. No.
No.
Wed?
No.
So then, how did she become the empress then?
She
Just
just
by
killed
killing
him.
him.
killing him.
She was the head of the intelligence bureau before then, and
So she was the head of the KGB claw.
yes,
So she offs the emperor, and she becomes the empress.
well, she's supposed to have off the emperor. That's the rumor. That's never.
Okay. So yeah. So that's the rumor.
Yeah.
But anyway, regardless, she's the empress.
So is the first claw really the next in the lineage to the throne, right?
So then how
Or
does
the
the
high claw, or did she
No, I
just?
mean,
She
Don't
took.
forget, I mean, this emperor created this empire from scratch. It's not something
no-
he inherited.
Not a democracy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
So she
Interesting.
took it by force. She wasn't
Yeah.
in line or anything. She just
No.
went, hey,
Yeah.
I'll be empress. Thank you very much.
yeah.
So then how does he become Shadow Throne?
Well, through entering an Azath house.
Before or after he died.
He didn't die. That's the point.
How did I miss like an entire chapter or something? How am I not getting this?
No. This is. I mean, it's subtly laced throughout. It's not designed to be clear.
Was this not the light bulb reaction you were hoping?
No. I didn't. I mean, I didn't expect there to be one. But
Don't lie, dude. For the last year, he's been going, oh, just wait till they work it out. Wait till they work it out.
I haven't worked it out yet.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
But the point is, Shadow Throne is the betrayed emperor.
This is very Palpatine vibes, bro.
Shadow
This
Throne
is
is
a
portrayed
big
Emperor.
spoiler, though, right? This is it's like we're gonna have to put it like a big sign up the front or something.
Yeah. Spoilers. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
Spoilers, we're idiots. Three of us have forgotten
Yeah,
everything.
we said
Don't worry,
that's
Rob
not a
spoiled
spoiler.
it for the three of us
Spoilers for the
too.
Yeah, that's not a spoiler.
Yeah.
Rob
We've been
already
idiots
spoiled
all
it for
along.
us.
But now you think about it, you've got all these ex-military people who were loyal to the Emperor. Whiskey Jack, Dujek, and all these guys. So it puts a slightly different spin on it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, it's not like Shadow Throne was giving them a whole bunch of love all the way through, though, was he? I mean,
No.
so does he not? Is there no link between his old life and his new life, or like, is it a complete sort of start over? Or
No,
I don't get it.
There's plenty links, yeah.
So, and all of that information can be gleaned from reading this book.
If you take a lot of little red strings and you put them up on your board,
that meme. Like,
yeah.
And then at the start of the book, where Shadow Throne, it was Cotillion and who the two that picked up Sorry right at the start.
Shadow Throne
and Cotillion, yeah.
So is Cotillion his 2IC from?
Yes, he was the master of assassins, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't get any of that.
So they are the ones who possess Sorry. And blah blah blah. Anyway, enough about that.
But no, that's not enough about that, surely, because they had a plan for her, right? And
yes,
for Sorry, but they didn't actually end up fulfilling their plan.
No one's plans worked.
No one's plans.
No one's plan. Nothing worked in this book. I'm 700 pages deep in it, and nothing worked.
Yeah, nobody. Nothing that was planned worked out for anybody exactly like they planned.
Not even the god Oppum is coin, because that just gets binned in the ocean. It's like, what was the point of any of this?
So, exactly, what was the point? And at the end, we have this little scene on the boat where everyone's leaving. It's Absalar, Crocus, Callum, Fiddler. As I understand it, they all leave together, and Callum and Crocus have the conversation, which ends up with Crocus flicking the coin into the sea. And then we get this weird moment with Perrin, who's getting the rest of the bridge burners together on shore, and then keeps hearing this voice in his head that he reckons is Tatisel. And that's where it ends.
Well, I miss Tatisel. I really wanted her to come back and do some cool stuff.
That's a good point, Adil. Yeah, she was
so
cool, such a cool character, right?
Yeah.
And we spent so much time with her at the beginning.
Isn't she like a 4-year-old now or something?
Yeah.
She's a bit older now.
Okay,
she's growing
by the third book,
not quite as fast as the house,
13
but she's getting older.
Yeah.
She's doing a little Benjamin Button reversal vibe.
So, yeah. That's why it's like you described it several times, Al, as like a spider web, and it is like a spider web, and it's I think it is very much a scene set, Now you know who the characters are, and what they're doing, what they think they're doing. Good luck,
Yeah.
No, it really is designed, I think, for at least 2 read-throughs. This, I doubt anyone can honestly say that they read this one time and got even the majority of what there was to get in here. I think it's.
I don't think so. I mean, I honestly don't. I mean, Adil's probably the cleverest guy I know, and he seems to get most of it.
No. So I actually have a question for you, Rob, because you've obviously read this book multiple times,
yes.
Right? And I think the three of us have said a couple of times now, if it wasn't for this series, we wouldn't have finished the book.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, I definitely don't think I would have gotten through the whole thing. We didn't. How And to your point, Gareth, like it's only really gonna it's only gonna make sense on the second or third read. What is it that gripped you? What is it that made you come back and go, A, I have to finish the book, but B, I have to come back and read it again?
I don't think it was the book itself. I mean, I remember being impressed with the imaginative scope of the thing. Like just that somebody could hold that many ideas in their head was quite appealing to me. But I think it was more the development of the story that drew me back to. I didn't read the first one, then read the first one, and then read the first one. I read the first three, and by the end of the third book, I was like, I really must go back and read that first book, because you know you get a sense you've missed a lot of the payoffs.
Yeah.
And I must say, going back and reading it, I mean, it's incredible to me that stuff is there. It's in the text. It doesn't mean anything at the time when you read it, but it's there. Like the reason why there is such a convoluted plan to cause so much death in Darijistan is actually in this book. You would never even contemplate it, but it's written. It's 3 or 4 lines, and it's literally in the first 3 chapters or 4 chapters of the book. And it's bizarre. It's like I don't know anybody who's prepared to write like that. I really don't. Anyway, so for me, it was the story that, to answer your question, was the story, the ongoing saga of the bridge burners. Really, what brought me back to reread it.
I think to your point, right? Like the stuff is there, and so in some cases he'll write something once and then never say it again, and in other cases he'll say it every chapter.
Yes.
Then in other things, so it's like it's that weird style that just it's intriguing, but at the same time it's maddening,
frustrating, and maddening. Yeah, because you don't know what's supposed to have significance and what isn't, because you don't.
No.
Because
It's like you say, a deal. It's like, so you get the hounds and the coin, like at every other page, spinning coins, barking hounds, blah 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 blah, all the time. But as Rob points out, the reason that all of this happened in Darijistan is like a throwaway line in the 3rd chapter.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, the bloody Shadow Lord is the Emperor.
Yes.
And again, that's not even like, I don't know. I didn't even think it was hinted at. Maybe I need to.
And the tyrant, which is supposed to be the big bad of the book, right, only really comes in the last third. I reckon it's not mentioned even. It's really.
And then gets stuck in a wooden house. It's like, what? Where'd that come from?
It's that Pinocchio motif getting carried all the way through the story.
But I think it's also like I mean, I must say, I mean, reading it with you guys with a slightly more critical eye has also made me realize that it's, of all the books in the series, it's the least well written. It seems to me to be an author who's not yet come to grips with how to properly manage all that stuff. And that skill gets honed incredibly better as the series goes on. It's almost like it feels like there's just too much content in this book, and it's like keeping it all together seems to be a little tricky.
I don't know, and from experience, I mean, I read a lot, but I don't know of another author who would even tackle this.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, yes, there's long-spanning books. You know, you look at Game of Thrones. You know, that's a fairly intertwined series of books. But I honestly don't think there's another author out there that has done this in this sporadic flash sort of style. I don't think anyone else would be mad enough to attempt it.
Yeah.
Was it you, Al? Did you say you read the prologue to the next book or the first chapter?
Yeah.
Do you notice a difference in a more coherent style?
I don't know. I think I'm still hungover from this one. I think I need to have a time away from Malazan and Mr. Erikson.
Helen Spencer.
This
Shadowthorn.
is the other problem with Erikson is time away just means you forget everything.
Dude, I've forgotten it already.
Yeah.
And I'm not lying to you. I'm not making this up. I read the Final Four today. And
Yeah.
if you put a gun to my head, I would battle.
The only thing you were certain of is that somebody was stabbed with a stick.
And I got that wrong.
Well, thank God, Al, because I was getting worried for my memory.
No. And I think it gets bad press. And I mean, I read the first couple of chapters of the second one, Deadhouse Gates, and it's immediately, it's his style. I mean, just that opening chapter is phenomenal. It's great. I'm not going to give it away because we might cover that in a future one, but it was awesome. And it's
Let's just say it features another member of the Parent family.
Yeah. And so it starts off and it just smacks. It's just him. It's just Erikson on the first pages. It's like that massive world. Here's a tiny slice. Go figure the shit out on your own. And that's, I mean, it was different. It was a different style. But like I said, it was only a couple of chapters, and I really need to sit down and give it a fair shake.
Yeah. Anybody got any final thoughts, passages that you enjoyed?
Well, it's just our last video of all time.
Well, we were talking about doing an epilogue, but I think we're kind of doing an epilogue.
Yeah, I think the way we've kind of spoken.
So from what I've read, okay, and this is, and we said this, I remember saying this in the very first episode, it's a divisive book. Is it divisive because it's supposed to be divisive and it's a snobby book that only snobby readers will read? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'll read pretty much anything as long as it's good fantasy. What I do know is that talking to other lovers of this book in this series, that this book is always slated. And out of the top 10, this book is always lost. It's never rated highly. Everyone hates it. And everyone always says it gets better from book 2 onwards, all the way up to 10, but not necessarily getting better in that order. They jump around. Number 2 is rated one of the highest. Number 7 apparently is very good, whatever. So, and I think it also takes away from it the fact that some person, Steven Erikson, and whoever he was writing with or whatever he was doing, had all of this in his head and actually had the balls to sit down and say, right, I'm going to commit however many years of my life to writing this and rewriting it and editing it and going out there and trying to find a publisher. And I can from experience, I can tell you now that this would have landed on someone's desk. They would have got 3 pages in and thought, nope.
Yeah, this must have been a beast to get published.
Nope. Exactly. And you look at, I mean, and I know everyone knows it, but J.K. Rowling, how many years did it take her to sell Harry Potter? So you can only imagine how long it took to get this one published. And so for that, just alone, the sheer tenacity to write the thing, and as you said, as you pointed out, Rob, to have all of those ideas so carefully mapped out that they're only going to come to fruition in books 7, 8, 9, to have that written down and to have faith in yourself to actually sit down and put this into book format and then still have the nuts to go and try and sell it to someone. I commend the dude. I mean, that's all I can say. I'll be honest, it's not my cup of tea. And I was a bit disheartened in parts, and other parts I loved. And on a whole, I'd give it a thumbs up. But I think purely from the amount of love and passion that the guy put into it, I would definitely recommend it. Even though it's not the best book of the series, but I mean, I don't talk from experience because I haven't got there yet. But yeah, no, hats off to the guy, man. It's amazing for what he's done.
100%, yeah.
Gareth, Adil, what do you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I would have anything to add that Al didn't. I mean, I think just for me as a non-fantasy reader, I did find it difficult, but then I also at the same time maybe didn't find it as difficult as I was expecting it to be. I kind of expected it to almost be nonsensical from the amount of negative sort of buzz that sort of hangs around this book. But yeah, I did enjoy it, and I think I would have enjoyed it. I also think we didn't make our own lives easier by reading it in this format, where we'd read a few chapters, then wait a while, and then talk about it and read it again. I think if we were maybe reading it like a normal person, we would have enjoyed it even more. But I'm glad I read it, and I did enjoy it, and I think I might. Well, I've got the second one. At some point in the future, I'll dip my toe back into it again. But for now, I think it's time for some lighter reading just to cleanse the palate a little bit.
Some noddy.
Yeah, I mean, I am a bit conflicted about it because I think I agree with Gareth. The first couple of chapters we read, we did sort of steel ourselves for this idea that it's now going to be flipping hard going the whole way through, and it got easier. It got easier. There were parts which, like Al said, there were parts I loved. And some of the descriptions and Anamanda Rake was amazing, and like some of those characters were just incredible. And then some of the stuff, and I think to some extent, when that episode we did where we talked about the themes, and we talked about the fact that to some extent there's a lot of just the mundaneness of everyday life, and some of it was just the pointlessness of all your plans and all of that kind of stuff. And I think in many ways he's written something which it feels like fantasy, but it also feels like everyday. It feels like something that you can relate to in your everyday life because he writes about the relationships. And I think that's the part that kept me going.
Yeah.
Like, I love that most of what he was doing, even though he's got all that stuff in his head, and I agree with Al, I applaud him for being able to even conceptualize all that stuff. Like, I mean, it's amazing. All those, it's amazing. But for me, the thing that kept me going was the individual relationships and the interesting bits around those people. And that's why, to some extent, where it did feel a little bit like that we was playing a role-playing game with certain people's lives or whatever, it almost affected me, right? Because I was like, oh no, but why isn't this going in the linear fashion? Why is it now going sort of all the way off? And I almost wanted some of those plans to come to fruition, or someone to come out on top, and we still, but we at the end of the book. And
who did come out on top? That's a good question.
Yeah. One of the things said, right, was that we don't know who's good and who's bad. We don't know, who we should be rooting for. We still don't know.
No, we don't. I mean, everyone's done pretty heinous things in this book, seen pretty heinous things, planned to do pretty heinous things for the Empress or not. I don't know. I think, I mean, if he never got to write a second book, or you know what I mean, it's like you couldn't. This wouldn't work. It'd just be a doorstop, because you would get to the end of this and you think, what? It doesn't even have an ending. What's this all about?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think that's all like flipping. I think that's pretty insightful. I mean, it's the strength and weaknesses of Erikson. I mean, it's very complicated in a sense that it's not all good. It's not all one thing. It's highly complicated. It's highly fantastical, but also highly realistic in many ways. Like it's not fantastical in terms of things don't work out.
There's no Deus Ex Machina here. There's no.
Yeah, people make plans that go wrong all the time. Like everybody's got flaws and everybody messes things up, and the whole thing gets a bit chaotic. And maybe that's. I'm still trying to work out what it was that drew me to the book in the first place, just to answer the question. But I don't know. I think I just liked the idea of the bridge burners, to be honest. That was it.
No, it's crapper.
Which makes me. I mean, can I just end in what I want to say by just quoting from the book, because I actually flagged this, and it's raced, just having destroyed a whole lot of dragons and sort of doing the sort of Thanos, I am inexorable, I cannot be stopped vibe, and it says, the tyrant's gaze snapped down to find a mortal standing before him. Race cocked a withered brow at the man's peculiar clothing, the coat tattered and faded red, with large food-stained cuffs. The baggy, shimmering pantaloons dyed an astonishing pink, and the broad black leather boots covering his small feet. The man withdrew a cloth and patted the sweat from his brow. "Dear sir," he wheezed, "you have not aged well at all." "There is an imas within you," Raystrip rasped. "Even the language you speak echoes their guttural throats. Have you come forth to grovel at my feet? Are you my first acolyte then, eager for my rewards?" "Alas," the man replied, "you are mistaken, sir. Krupp, this humble, weak mortal who stands before you, bows to no man, be he Jugget or God. Such are the nuances of this new age, that you are felled by indifference, made insignificant in your mighty struggles by lowly Krupp, in whose dream you have ignobly stumbled. Krupp stands before you so that you may gaze upon his benign countenance in the last moments before your demise. Magnanimous of Krupp, all things considered." That was my favorite passage.
Yeah, that
from
did strike me as well.
So good.
And I
So
mean,
good.
if any character's gone up in my estimation in this reading with you guys, it's that dude.
Mm.
But anyway, Krupp for president.
Trump for president.
Yeah, and I think for me, like if I had to look back at this whole book, I would honestly say, and I mean it genuinely, that the intro is to me is just outstanding.
Hmm.
The prologue.
I
Yeah.
love it, and to me,
And he
it's
wrote that
almost
afterwards, right?
No, I don't know, but they say that you should never judge an author by the prologue, because prologue is always they're on their best behavior.
yeah. Well, I mean, he was definitely on his best behavior then, but I love the prologue in this book,
Yeah, it's
and
good.
there's certain
Yeah.
scenes, but I can't. If you had to say to me, "Oh, chapter 14," I couldn't tell you as a whole whether I liked it. There are parts that I like or parts that I don't like.
Yeah.
But I love the prologue, and I love that live a quiet life that the gods don't notice you, and that's what sticks in my head is that, and the weather vane.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. The weather vane creaking,
door creaking there.
pulled in
Now.
every direction by inconsistent winds, and rust forming like a map of an empire on it, perhaps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Anyway,
Very good.
guys, it's been fantastic. Thanks for taking the time to read it and give your thoughts. And I love vicariously watching other people experience stuff, and it's been real fantastic to do it with you.
Thank you for holding our
Thank
hands
you.
and guiding us through the haze of confusion and getting us
Anytime, if
to
you
the
want to
light
know
at the end of the
who's turned
tunnel.
into a god and who hasn't, just let me know.
Awesome.
That was just incredible. Thank you so much.
I will
Thanks,
say that
Rob.
if you do have the opportunity of reading Dead House Gates, it's a completely different novel, more coherent. It's basically a whole lot of D&D parties going around a planet like Dune. And it's probably got the most emotional ending I've ever read in a work of fantasy, and I include Tolkien in that.
Whoa.
Compared to this book, which isn't particularly emotional. But anyway, thanks guys. It's been flipping
Thanks.
awesome.
That's
Right.
awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.